Hey, welcome back to the Writer's Bookshelf. So this week we're going to be doing another book on the writing life. Not so much about the craft yet. We will start that next week. But this week we're going to be focusing on a book called "This Is Not a Writing Manual" by Kerri Majors. And just like last week's book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, where we talked about how to fight resistance and basically become a disciplined writer. This one is just about life as a writer. And why is that even important? Like, what do we need to read that for? If you are the kind of person who maybe you keep telling yourself, I'm going to write my book, I have this story to tell, I promise I'm going to do it this year, maybe next year if this year doesn't go well, and if next year doesn't work out, maybe before I'm 90, I don't know, but I'm going to write this book, I hope. If you're in that situation, you probably need a reality check. And so that's what this book is about. It's the reality check of the writing life. And it gives you some lessons on, don't make this your only job, especially if you're starting out. Make sure you have a real job. It gives you a kind of reflection on what it's like to, dive into your idea, and then, what happens when you put your idea out and for the public to see. This is really the kind of book that I would say is a good starting point for kind of like Stephen King's On Writing, if you've read that, or Bird by Bird by Ed Lamont. Like, this is kind of in that same frame of mind where, before you get, committed to the writing process or the writing career even, know what you're getting yourself into. And so it's, the subtitle is Notes for the Young Writer in the Real World. And this is actually, I like the formatting of this book. So like the cover, this is kind of a consistent within the body text. So like if I go to, here's one example chapter on eavesdropping. And so they're telling you, how eavesdropping affects the writing process. But it's cool because I just like these headers. Here's another one. Watch your soap operas. So, why would you need to watch soap operas? This chapter will tell you. The short answer is, soap operas are, based on characters. They're compelling. You have to go back and watch the next episode. It's like potato chips, if I remember this correctly, which I don't because I read it a long time ago. But I'm pretty sure that's what the lesson is. But what this book is, it's a book of essays that the writer wrote, maybe on a blog, but it basically, she compiled it all into a book, which a lot of how-to writers will do. A lot of them will have a blog first, and then they'll compile it all into a book. The one I did last season called Author in Progress is like that, the one from Writers Unboxed. If you've ever wanted to get into the business of writing, or just if you just want to know what you're in for, this is the book that gives you sort of that behind the curtain. Not this curtain, but I have a cat behind this curtain. But if you ever wanted to learn what was behind the writer's curtain, here's some of the essay titles. In part one on the writing process, you have drafting by a planner, writing without writing, eavesdropping, which we just looked at, feedback, revision, watch your soap operas, which we also just looked at, my first big mistake. We all make one, so that's important to realize. You have come at it from the side. I have no idea what that's about. I have to go back and reread the chapter to know what that's from. But it's compelling, nevertheless. Leave your ego at the door. Very true. Play with your words. And then you go into part two of the writing life, and you go on to more examples. So you have the creative writing major, find yourself an audience, booze and writing buddies, workshops and writers, and so on. And so there are a total of, looks like 3 parts. It's about 200 pages. There's an appendix and a bibliography if you need that kind of thing. Appendix, not the one you had out when you were 10. I still have mine. It's basically, it's just a collection of essays that the writer put together that kind of despoils the secret life of writers, which is to say we don't have a secret life. If you're already a writer, this is just a reminder of whether or not you're doing it correctly. But it's really, it's not the kind of book you need, like if you're trying to go for craft, if you're trying to go for the profound writing. I mean, you will get a few things, a few good advice out here, like eavesdropping or watching your soap operas, because again, it's going about the mindset of writing. It's using the real world as your basis for figuring out what to write about, for example. So there's little things like that. But if you get a chance to check this book out, it's one of those ones where I think it's a good kind of recentering book. Like if you're starting a new project and you're not sure how to begin, go ahead and read through it. Maybe you'll get some ideas. It's really easy to dive in because, again, each chapter is basically an essay. So it's all kind of compartmentalized. Every little piece you read, it's got its own premise, its own basis. So, there's not really anything you have to, try to remember. It's, go back and read what's interesting to you at the time you read it. Now, I believe I read this I think while I was working. I believe this is one of the books that I had in my bag for downtime. So I probably read this with distractions all around me. And again, this is not the kind of book that you have to have in order to be a good writer. It's the reason why we're recommending it for this particular series is because I still think you need mindset books, and you need something to kind of get you motivated. We all need motivation. So when we talked about resistance in the War of Art, resistance gets in the way of motivation, and so sometimes we just need that extra kick. And so this is another thing that this book accomplishes: is it gives you not only a peek behind the curtain of the writer's life, but it can also be a motivator for those of us who are writing. So do flip open to a random chapter. Like sometimes it will downright suck, because it's true. It will. Probably not sometimes. That's the one criticism I have about the chapters. It's not sometimes, it's most of the time. But it's honest. So let me give you I like to every so often give you a snippet from the book. So we'll read from the first paragraph of the chapter just so you know what you're getting into. So by the time I was a senior in high school, I thought of myself as something of a writing stud. Though I still played flute in the band, I'd basically given up practicing, devoting the time I'd once spent on music to words. I was editor-in-chief of the school paper, a position for which I wrote articles and editorials. I had friends who actually wanted to read my stuff, people who thought of me as the writer. I aced classes that required papers, but the main reason for my high opinion of myself was my track record in speech and debate, specifically OPP, or, in her words, original prose and poetry. Okay? And then it goes on to say, what I didn't mention in my speech primer and feedback, which was the name of an article, is that the OPPers were always a motley crew full of speechies who performed in other categories as well, largely because you could only compete in OPP in the state of California. Blah blah blah. You get the idea. It's a personal recollection of experiences. So. Again, she's not writing this in order to tell you what to do or anything like that. I mean, you're going to have your own experience going through the process, but these are not uncommon experiences. Playing the flute might be, but, being in that situation where you're, the one who thinks you're all that until you find out you're not, I mean, we all go there. So that's what that book is. This is not a writing manual. It came out in 2013, so you're not going to probably find it on the bookshelf right now. You'd have to go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble to find a copy. And again, I'm trying to be honest with the ones that you need and ones you don't. And by now, you should have access to an article I posted. Would have been March. Well, I'm still doing this in January, so I haven't technically posted the article yet. It is written, but it's a layout of the 20 20 books from the previous season. The 16 plus the 4 bonus episodes, ranked according to priority. And I'm trying to be honest about the ones that you don't actually have to have in order to do well. And this is one of those ones where I don't think you have to have it. Should you read? I mean, everything that I feature is worth reading. That's why it's featured. So I don't ever want to make it seem like, oh, here's a book you shouldn't buy. It's worth it. But it's not one that I think you absolutely must have unless you're starting out or you're just struggling to really plug in. And in fact, I might want to read it again just because, again, I'm trying to juggle website and, a bunch of other stuff all in one, and the writing has actually kind of slipped on to the wayside a little bit. And it might be that maybe I want to go back and reset my mindset a little bit, and so this might be the kind of book I'd want to open. So if you are in a funk right now, or you're just having trouble getting started, like you keep talking about, I want to write, and you just don't do it, this is the book I'd recommend you get, to get you started. And again, it's not a gospel book. It's one person's experiences. You're not going to have all the same experiences, so it's another reason why I don't want to say you must have this book. You really don't have to have it. But if you want to have something that you can find relatable, if you're struggling to get your mind in that frame, that's the book I would say go and check it out. And again, if you go to Amazon, you can check the look inside feature, see if it's something you even want to invest in. It's not expensive. I think it's $15. It came out in 2013, so that was back when books were a little bit cheaper than they are now. So yeah, that's this is Not a Writing Manual by Kerri Majors, and if nothing else, it's a fun read, so it's entertaining. So anyway, all right, so next week we're going to start our character development series. And just to remind you guys, season 2 is going to be in 2 parts plus bonus, like we did in season 1. So I don't know exactly when this season will end, because I haven't planned out my second half yet. I know it's going to be mostly things like scene setting and all of that, but the first half will be character development, and there's like a ton of character development books that we're going to cover. So be ready for that. It's going to be quite the sit down, and I'll be honest with them, and I'm going to do these probably all back to back. As of this recording, I'm just doing these two, the Writing Manual and the War of Art. So when I come back next time, I'm going to be doing all of my character books together. So maybe in a month from now, I might do the rest of them. But then after, again, that's not going to affect you when you're watching this, but there will be probably a 3 or 4 week break in between the characters and then what follows, because I'm still trying to catch up on reading the second half. So if for any reason we get to the end of the character session and the break is more than 3 or 4 weeks, it's not because I've forgotten. It's not because we moved on to season 3. It's just because I need more time to catch up on the books that I want to do for the rest of season 2, because I got an entire box behind me of books that I haven't read yet. And I know that they'll be good, but I want to know what's in them before I talk about them. So that'll be the hang up. So we will have an extended season 2. So season 3 probably won't start until next year. But anyway, that's just a kind of a preview of what's coming. But the first half, we should be done by the end of June, which is good, because that's my birthday and I want a break. So, but by I think like late July, we should start the second half and then be done with season 2 by September or October is my guess. So anyway, all right. That's a lot of inside stuff that you probably don't care about, so we'll just see how things play out as we go. I hope you're doing well, and again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and walk your dog, and have a drink, and write a book, because that's why you're here. So take care. See you next time. Bye.